Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this tutorial where I show you how to create a table of users or customers where we use AJAX to update, add, and delete these users here. So what I mean is I can click on new to add a new row, and this shows up right here. I can click on that to add an image, and then I can put some details as I need them, like this, and then email, I don't know what to write, and then save. Record was saved, and there is the record. We can click to view the record. There it is. Or if we want, we can delete the record, and it's gone, just like that. So all of this uses AJAX, PHP, and some JavaScript. So if you want the basics of HTML, I have a link in the description, and if you want the basics of PHP, I have a link in the description. So we're going to be using PHP, JavaScript, and some Bootstrap CSS to make sure that we don't waste time typing some styles. So you can do this without Bootstrap, but this relies on Bootstrap. So let's get started. So to begin our project, of course, as usual, we're going to need a few resources. So the first one is XAMPP. So please download XAMPP. So type XAMPP download in your browser, and then get the apachefriends.org result, and then download XAMPP there and install it. So it's a pretty straightforward installation, and what XAMPP gives us is PHP, MySQL, which is the database, and a server, which is Apache. So once you download that, if you're using a Macintosh, you can use MUMP instead of XAMPP. Alright, so once you finish downloading that and install it, you're going to open the XAMPP control panel, or whatever control panel you're using. So here, download 64-bit version or 32-bit version, depending on your system, and then start these two, Apache and MySQL. So once you start these two, we are good to go, because now we have a server and a database, and PHP will be running as well. All right, so with that in mind, of course, we're going to need a database. So let's go ahead and create one. So type in your browser localhost/phpMyAdmin as one word, and this will bring you to this page where we can now click new to create a new database. So click new over here, and we're going to name our database spreadsheet_db, but you can give it any name, just don't put spaces there, and let's hit create. Okay. So now in there, we're going to put a table. So here you can put as many tables as you want, but for now, we just want to add some users. So we're going to put a users table, and let's hit go. Now, let's add some columns here, because we're being asked to add some columns. The first column is the ID. We need this as the primary key so that we can tell it exactly which row we're referring to using the ID. And then let's go to the name. We're also going to need an image for our user, maybe an age as well. And then let's add a few more columns here by clicking there and hit go. And we can add maybe date created and date updated, like that. Okay, so you can put as many columns as you wish here. So there's name, age, and an image. What else can we put? Maybe you would want some comments, etc., etc. That's entirely up to you, but you can always add more columns later on. It doesn't matter. Okay, so maybe we can put an address. It doesn't matter the order we put these guys in. So let's click, or maybe let's put city instead of address, maybe city. Okay, great. Now let's make sure that the ID is auto increment, so that as we add records, it adds a number on its own. And then let's make sure it's a primary key here on the index. Then select the name, put variable character there as the data type that will be here. Same with image. And then age will remain as an integer since age doesn't have decimal places, so that's good. Date created, let's add a date time. Where is this date time thingy? I'm getting blind. Okay, same thing with this one. Let's put date time as well. Where are we? There we go. The city is a variable character, string, and so on. So add as many columns as you wish. And then here on the city, if you know the longest city name that's possible, then tell it how many characters you are expecting. So let's just put 50 characters just to handle the longest city name. Here we don't need to put a length because it will automatically know how long a date is. And age is an integer, but we don't have people that are 1,000 years old. So this one can handle about 11 characters, but we only need 3 up to 100 years, since 3 up to 999 actually. And you can even put it up to 99, 2 to handle up to 99 years, but 3 is fine. So the image, we're going to be saving a path to that particular image, and I'll put 100 or 1024. So we put 1024 there as the characters we're expecting for the path of the image. You can put as needed. The name, what's the longest name you're going to have in here? So maybe 50 characters or maybe 100 characters, that's fine. We can also put maybe an email column there. Let's put a variable character as well, and let's put 100 in length. This one, it knows the limit is 11, so just leave it be. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's hit save. Great. So we have a users table here, and any column that you're going to use to search for example, we can search by name. So let's add an index there. Click that and click OK. If you use the email to search by email, you can also add an index, but I want to limit those things here. Let's leave it be. Oh, one thing I forgot though is the date updated will only have a value once we update the record, not when we are adding the record. So any column that you expect may be empty when you're adding records, it's better to tell it to accept no values. So let's edit a few of these. So there's age right there, and image, we may not have that, but a name is a must, date created is a must. This one isn't so much. Maybe the city is optional, etc., etc. That's up to you, but let's just make these optional. So let's change those. And what I want to do is click this no to tell them to accept empty values. Otherwise, it may have problem saving. Now, this one, I don't want it to accept empty values. I just want to give a default value so that in case the user does not supply anything, we're going to put at least 1 as a default value because we don't want to put people with 0 years old. So let's save that. Alrighty then, cool. So now once we are done with this, if you want, you can export this table and then import it later as needed, just in case. Okay, so if we click browse, we see that there are no records here saved yet, but awesome, at least we have a database now. So the next thing to do is to create a connection to our database, right? Now what we would do is we need a text editor. We need to start editing our code, and I'm using Sublime Text, but you can use any text editor of your choice. Now, if you installed XAMPP in Drive C, then that's where we're going to go to create our folder. So we're going to go to Drive C, and mine is in Drive C, XAMPP, htdocs, and then inside there, htdocs is where all my websites are saved because that's where my XAMPP folder is. Depending on your server, that could be the www folder. Then I made a folder in there called spreadsheet, and this is where I am right now. So I can simply grab this folder drag and drop it into my text editor. If you're using VS Code, you can do something similar like this. All right, so inside here, I want to create a few files. So first file I'm going to create is the main file that we're going to display things in. So since we're not going to be using some PHP in here, we're going to use AJAX to read everything. So we can save this as an HTML file instead of an index a .php file. But either will work just fine. It doesn't matter. So we'll say index.html. Now, if in future you find yourself wanting to add some PHP code in here, just change the file extension to .php. But for now, HTML will do just fine. Let's save that. Okay, now let's put HTML tags like this. So you can type this if your system does not give you this. So let me give it a title, spreadsheet, like that, and save, right? And so once I save here, I can now open this file inside my browser. So I can always right click here and say open containing folder to go to that particular folder, but I'm already here. So open there, and this is what I have. So if I now try to open this with my browser, this is what I get. But what we want is this file to go through a server. So here it's being read directly, just like a file on your hard drive. But we want it to go through the PHP server so that we can use the advantages that come with using a server. For example, using AJAX, these days you require a server to do that. So change the path up to this point where the folder is, like the htdocs folder or the www folder in some cases. Select everything there and replace that with the word localhost. So now it becomes localhost/spreadsheet/index.html. Now to know that you've loaded the file correctly, we will just put an h1 tag there and say hello world, like so. Okay, so let's come back here and refresh. Hello world. Very nice. Now what we want to do is use Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is a CSS library where instead of us having to waste time typing some CSS, we can just use classes that are already created by another company. So in short, we're just going to use their CSS file instead of having to create our own. So that's what Bootstrap is. It's just a CSS file that you can use where all the classes have already been created for you. You just select which classes you want to use and use their properties. So to get Bootstrap, you just go type getbootstrap.com, and then when you get there, click on the docs section. That's where the download button is. So download the zip file that comes with this. And then scroll down. While that is downloading, scroll down to where there's a model here. We want to use models here, of course. Now, what is a model? In case you don't know, a model is a window that pops up on the screen, and then once it pops up, you can't edit anything behind it. So that's why it's called a model. I guess that's why it's called that for some reason. Okay, so when you click on model, this is the page that comes in. So model like this, and it gives you an example of models. This is what the basic model looks like. But if you click on this button right here, you see that it shows you an example of a model, and you see the sides of the screen are blacked out, which means I can't edit here. If I click here, the model disappears, or if I click close, the model disappears. But anything else here, I can click around and do some stuff, and it will work just fine. So you can choose any of the models that you want. I think the very basic one is fine. There's one where once you launch this, even if you click on the side, it doesn't close the model like we did with the other one. So if this is the type of thing you want, where you want to restrict until someone closes it like that, you can choose this one that says static background. But we just want the basic one. So I'm just going to click here to select all the code from the clipboard. Now, nothing will work here because we need Bootstrap, of course. So, but let's click there and copy that. Come back to our page. And right on our page down here, I'm just going to paste that code. So let me move it in so that we can see it as a separate piece of code. All right, so what's happening here is that these are classes that come with Bootstrap, and things should happen if we install Bootstrap, but we haven't added Bootstrap here yet, so none of this is going to work. So let's see what happens if we haven't done anything. So this is what we are seeing. We are seeing everything visible here, but it doesn't even look good. So what we'll do is let's install Bootstrap. So if you did download Bootstrap quite nicely, what will happen is you are going to have a folder, a zip file, sorry. So I have a zip file here that is like this. It's Bootstrap 5.2, right? Distribution. So I'll copy that and paste it inside my, oh boy. Let me right click and say open containing folder. So inside my folder, that's where I want to put it. So paste there. Okay, then let's extract it to the same file. So we're just going to say extract, or we can just say extract here. Okay, good. So now I can remove the zip file, go in here. I just want the CSS and JS. So I'll just cut them and put them outside here, these folders, and delete the original folder. Sorry. So this is what I have. Oh, I didn't delete this guy. Okay, there we go. So I just want directly the CSS. Now there's a lot of files in here, but we don't actually need all of them. You can also delete all of them if you want, except the bootstrap.min.css. That's the only file we need here. Same in the JS folder, we just need the bootstrap.min.js. That's it. The rest of the files are useless. You can delete them if you want, but we'll just leave them in there for now. Okay, so with this in mind, we have we can import the file that we want. So right after the title here, just put a link tag like this, type it like that. Then let's put the folder we're looking for. It's in CSS, bootstrap.min.css, just like that. So to know that things have worked, you will see that the font here will change, and this will probably disappear. But just the font there will change. And if you see that, that's good. Things have worked as intended. Now, if I click to launch this demo, it won't work the same way it works here on the website. Now, the reason is because it uses JavaScript, and so we have to import the JavaScript file as well. Now, you can import the file right here next to this one, no problem, but it's always best to import script tags at the very bottom so that they load last. So here, let's put source like this. Okay, so script, source, and we're going to the JS folder, and then bootstrap again, .min.js. So if you forget what the file name is, just search in here, you will see those files. The one we are doing right now is bootstrap.min.js, the minified version. Good. So once we have loaded that, it should work as intended. So right click, refresh, sorry, click here, and there we go. We have our model working just fine. Very cool. Now the thing is, we're going to have rows of data, and we want each row, when we click on the edit button, to be able to launch the model. The same model will be launched by each row. The only thing is we need a way to identify specifically which row we have clicked, so that once we finish editing the data, we'll save it to the correct place, right? So how do we do that? So the first thing I want to show here is that when we click, if we have multiple buttons here, so let me come down here. You see, this is the button right here. If I duplicate this button like this, you see that both buttons will be able to activate the same model. So this is cool. So these could be different rows, and they'll be able to activate. Now what we can do is, on the button here, on a particular button, there is always an on-click. You can add an on-click listener. So say on-click like that, and then do something. Like for example, an alert at the same time. So what I'm saying here is, while the person is clicking, as the model is showing, we can run some other JavaScript code. For example, load that model with data. So if I click, you see there's a pop-up that came up with the model. Same here. But now I want to identify each one of these uniquely. So what I could do is just put an ID like that and put a number there. Maybe this could be the ID of the row. So that one is 1, this one is 2. Then what I want in the alert is to show that I can grab this value and use it in my JavaScript. So I'll just say this.id. So I'm telling it to alert. This means this item itself, this button, .id. So I'm just telling it to get the ID of this button and show it in the pop-up. So let's see that here. If I refresh, I click. So you see there's a 2 there. So that has ID of 2. If I click here, there's ID of 1. Great, great. Now, what if I want to populate the input that's here with some dynamic data, like we are doing here? Here I'll get 1. Sometimes I'll get 2, depending on the row. So what I could do is, this is the body of the model. It says right there, model body. Right here, I will put an input field of type text. Let me put a class of form control so that it looks like part of this thing. And then I want a way to identify it. So I'll put a class that I'll use to identify. I'll call it JS as a prefix so that I know I'm using this for identification only. It's not for styling. So I'll say JS model input. Now, this is just a name I've created. So you can type any gibberish here. It doesn't matter as long as it's a class name of some kind. So with this class name here, I can use this to identify this item. And instead of displaying something here, I'll just remove the alert. And I'll just tell it document.querySelector. This is how we grab an item from the document. And this item has a class name. So I want to grab by class name. So I'll put quotes, but then I'll put a dot because it's a class name I'm looking for, and paste that same class. So I'm trying to grab this item. So by doing document.querySelector and searching for that, I'm going to grab this. But then I want to give it a value. Since I've grabbed it, I can say dot value is equal to, so I can put a number there of the value, but I want it to grab the ID of this same item and put it there. So instead of a fixed number, I'll get a dynamic value. So in this case, I'll just say this.id. So this represents the button that was clicked or the item that was clicked, but then I've told it to grab an item from the document, and the value of that item should be equal to this ID of this one. So in this case, if I click on this button, I'll get a 1 in this input. If I click this button, I'll get a 2 in this input, hopefully. So let's check that out. So if I refresh and click launch, you see there is a 2 there. Great. If I click on this one, there's a 1. Now keep in mind, this is the same exact model that's being loaded, but we're just changing the value that's in there. Also, we may need several models. Maybe you need to edit a row or delete a row, and each time you want a model to pop up and give you the answer. So in that case, you would see that. Let's come back here. This is the whole model thingy here. Now, if I duplicate this model part like this, Ctrl-Shift-D, okay. What links this model to the buttons is this ID right there. So there's an ID for this model and its example model. And if you look closely at the button, you see that there's this data BS target, which says example model. Okay, right there, example model. So that's what links this button to this model. So if I put, for example, here and say on the second button, I put example model 2, and then I go to this second model and put a 2 there. So this is a different ID to that one. So now this button activates this one and this button activates this one. It's as simple as that. So you can put as many models as you want on the page. So if I click here, now they all look the same, so we may not be able to tell which is which. So what I'll do is there's a model title here. I'll just change this one to 1 and model title 2. That way we can see that there's a difference. So back here and refresh. If I click on that, you see model 2. And if I click on this one, you see model 1. So that's how we can activate several models on the same page and reuse the same model but update the data that's within it. So with this in mind, these are the basics here. Let's create a table and load data from our database, right? Alrighty then. So like I said, we're going to use AJAX to read data from our PHP side. So all we need to do is create a PHP file that is going to read from the database. Because we can't read from the database directly from our JavaScript, we will need to add some PHP. So let's create a separate file altogether. I'm going to right click on the spreadsheet folder, new file, and just put some PHP tags over there and then save this as api.php. So you can name this file anything you want. It doesn't matter as long as it's .php at the end. That's what's important. Okay, so from this side, we want to connect to our database. So every time we access this file, we connect to our database and then we do some reading of data. So to make things simple, let's just create a function that will run a query whenever we want to. So I'll say function query like this, and then let's put a query in there. We assume the user supplied a query, and then sometimes we may need to supply some data because we want to use prepared statements. Okay, but it's not really needed to use prepared statements. So maybe to keep things simple, we can remove the prepared statements thingy. But I'll leave it for now. Let's set it to an empty array like that so that it's an optional item to add. Okay, so with this, let me set a value called result and set it to false. And then I need to create a connection to the database. Now, in order to create a connection, we're going to... Okay, maybe we want to use prepared statements for now. I'm weighing the options. I think let's do it. Let's use PDO instead. Okay, like that. But I haven't used MySQLi in a long time, so this is an option. You can either use PDO or MySQL. Let's try MySQLi because I find that most people find this easier. So let's do MySQLi connect. Let's remove the prepared statements thingy here. It's not necessary anymore. Okay, so here what we will do is we need 3 params. Let's do the host name is localhost. Now, if you're running this from an online server, you're going to have to find out what the host name is. Usually it's localhost, but sometimes it's not. Then let's put a username, which is root, and then a password is empty in my case because I didn't add a password, but if you're using mump, it could be root as well. Now, if you added a password to your database area and the username, that's what you're going to add here. Don't use these. These are default values for those that haven't added anything there. So in order for us to know that this is working, we're going to have to echo something here. Now I've created this function, but anyway, let's assume things have gone well. So we'll say if not connection like this, and then let's put die like that and say unable to connect like this, just so we exit the script immediately and just say unable to connect. And then if things go well, we're going to reach here, okay, which is cool. And then now we can use the connection to run something. So we'll say result is equal to, let's try MySQLi query. So we run a query, MySQLi query. So we put the connection string and then we get whatever query was sent and run it. Now, if things went well, which is if result, like that, or we can just say if MySQLi, actually there might not be a result if there's an error in the query. So let's just say if result, and then in there we say if, or we can put an and here, if result and MySQLi num rows result. So the number of rows in this result is greater than 0, then things went well, right? So down here we're going to start reading. So we'll say while we'll run a loop. The condition is row is equal to MySQLi fetch. Now I want to fetch an associative array, so I would use the fetch assoc function, and of course in here I'll put the result. Okay, so what we are doing is we are running a query. If everything went well, then we check if the results are greater than 0. If they are, we run a loop. Now within this loop, we want to see if we want to grab all the results that came from here, all right? So let's grab this res that we grabbed there, and I will paste it here. I'll do this. Okay, so I'm adding all the rows, looping through and adding all the rows to this item, and then return it when we get here. So return res. Okay, so this function just runs a query. So if there's no result here, res will return false, like that. Okay, cool. So just a simple function to do things. Now here what I want us to do is to show you how we connect to this file, the PHP file. So forget about this function for now. I'm going to mute it by putting it in comments like that. So now practically the file is empty. All I want to do is echo and say here. Now keep in mind that whatever we echo in this file, okay, is going to be returned as a result of the query of the AJAX request that we make in the HTML file. So we're going to make an AJAX request to this PHP file, which is going to read from the database and give us the data that we want. So in order to receive back that information, anything we echo from here will be returned as a result in the HTML file. So all you need to do is echo something here, and that's the result you'll get. So if we don't echo anything, we're going to get an empty response. So here we're echoing here, and so we're supposed to get that. So let's see if we can get that from this file. Okay, so let's go down here, and I'll leave these models as they are, but let's come down here and create a script tag. So I'll put the JS, the Bootstrap last. Let's put a script file there. I don't need that, so I'll do this. Okay, so what I want here is to create a function that will send data. So this is JavaScript now. So we'll just call this one send data like this. That is the function name. Okay. So function send data, and here we're going to give an object of the data that we are sending, okay? And also we might want to add a type. So that will be the type of data we are sending and the data itself. Now, putting a type is important because we only have one file here. And so we need to know what to do with that data when it gets here. That's why we have to add a type. Is this data for editing? Is it for deleting? Is it for updating or inserting a new row? So that's what type is going to help us distinguish. So we need to create an object that sends this. So to run AJAX, you can use the fetch function, but I like the other one better. So we're going to say var, we're going to call it AJAX. You can call it anything you want. is equal to new XML HTTP request. Okay, so we've created an HTTP request, and all we need to do is say ajax.open, let's open it, and then ajax.send like this. This is as simple as it happens. So you open, but when opening you tell it what type of request you are sending. Is it a put? Is it a post? Is it a get request? But in our case, it's a post request. And then here put the name of the file you are accessing. It's api.php. It should be on the same server. In this case, it is because it's right there. And then let's put true here to tell it to run this in the background. If we don't put true there, it's going to be false, and then it will freeze our UI while this is happening. You may not like that. So to send now, we're going to send an object there. Now let's create a form. So let's convert this into a form type. Instead of just sending, you could just send the data as it is, as a string, but let's format it into a form kind of thing. So I'm going to say var form is equal to new form data, like that. So this is how you create a form, a virtual form, just like if you created a form here and submitted it. This is what we are formatting the data as. And then I want to loop through the object here and then add the content of this object to the form. So what I'll do is create a loop, and I'll use the for loop. I'll say for key in object, like that. Okay, because I do need the key of whatever is in here. So what I'll do now is say form.append. So let's add to the form. And to append, we'll put our key and then a comma and then the value. So the value is going to be inside obj key, like so. So whatever, this is going to be an object. And you don't need to name it obj, you can name it anything. It can be data, that's fine. And just grab the key itself. So let's say, for example, when creating the object, we had name is equal to something. So this is just what we are creating here. We're just saying name and then its value there. So we are appending all these items that are sent in there. So great. Once we are done with that, we can now send the form as it is. So let's send form like that. So this is well and good, but the only problem now is we haven't captured our response yet. So we need to respond, we need to do something once the result has been returned. So we'll add an event listener to listen to that response. So I'll say ajax.add event listener. So take care of the capitalization there, and let's do that. So that's how you add an event listener. But then you tell it what you're listening to. So I'm listening to the ready state change. So whenever the ready state changes, we listen to it. Now there are 4 states that an XML HTTP request goes through. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 4 is when everything is done. So we want to just listen to number 4. The others are not important in this case. So the ready state change, we want to know when it's for and do something. Now we need to supply a function that will run here once we get a result. So let's do that. Great. So this function we've put inside here will run once we every time the state changes, right? But we're only interested when the state is for. So I'll just say if ajax.ready state, capitalization there, if it's equal to 4, then we are good, we can do something. Now if you only want to respond when things went well, then you can just say and, but I guess you can do this and say if ajax.the status is equal to 200. So 200 means there was a response on the server side. Now if the file isn't found, we're not going to go through this if statement. It will end here. So you can say else, or you can say if 200, and then you can say else here. And then here it means something went wrong, alert we can say an error occurred. Or if you want, you can just listen to the on error event here. That's it. So you can just say on error and then you run a function. So you can repeat this exact same thing and just say put, instead of ready state change, you just say error, I think. You can look that up. So if it's not 200, then something, if it's 200, then everything went well. So from here now, we can create another function called handle result to handle the result. So we just say handle result like that. And then what result? The result is going to always be in the ajax.response text. Now, if you're expecting JSON, you can use the response JSON, but let's leave it there and let's create that handle function result. So we just say function handle underscore result like that. And since we expect a result in here, which is what we've supplied there, then all I want to do is just do a console.log, or maybe an alert for now. Let's do alert, whatever the result is, let's alert that. Okay, great. So that's cool for now. So all this just to send and listen to a result. So let's try and send something. Now I'll put an empty object there and put a type just so we can see something. So here I'm just going to say send data just to run this function. And then I'll supply an empty object, which is just 2 curly braces. And then type, I'll just call this read, like that, as a string. So once I do that, I should get an alert of the result. So let's try that. And I'm just going to refresh. And as you can see, there's a result code here. And that's because that's what we have here. So let's try and change it to here and there so that you see that text is the one we are receiving here. So if I refresh again, we are receiving an error occurred, right? Okay, here and there. I guess it occurred because we ran it immediately before things had loaded properly, I guess. So here and there it is, and there again. So things are working as intended. Now here, instead of us returning just some text like this, it's better we return some JSON, because JSON is formatted text in a way that once we receive it in the JavaScript side, we can actually change it to an object, which is more useful because we can go specifically to the data that we want instead of just returning some text like this. So I'd rather we return some JSON text, which is what we will be doing. So let me remove this. Now that we know we've made a connection, let me close that. At least now we have a function that runs a query. And oh, sorry, here I forgot. We have the host name. We need the database name at the end. So root that, and then let's put a DB name there. It's not necessary. It can still connect without it, but let's put it there. Spreadsheet. That's the name of our database underscore DB, like that. So that's the database, comes last. Okay, great. Now I just want to run a query real quick here to read from the database, right? Now, in order for us to see something in the database before we even start adding things, let's just go directly to the database. Oops, what's happening here? What's happening? I want us to go here and add one record at least. So I'm just going to click insert here. Okay, so what name will we add? That's John. So forget this. This will add automatically since it's a auto increment is on. And then there's an empty image. This accepts no values, so that's okay. Age, let's put 20 there. Date created, let's add today, which is right there. That's okay. And email, so we just say john@email.com. And then what else? This is another row, but we just want one just so we can get some result of some kind. So let's hit go. Okay, So this is the query here. If you look at this, this is the query you need to run in order to insert the data we've just inserted. So it's insert into users, and then the names of the columns, and then values, and then the names of the values. Now ID is no, which is not right. Oh, I guess it will add auto increment there. And yeah, the dates and the updated date should have been empty, but that's fine. Let's click browse and see if things went well. And as you can see, things did go well. So we have at least one record in the database. That's cool. So let's try and read it from here. Let's remove all of this and create something nicer, shall we? All right, so on here, I'll leave the model at the top. I just need one of these models, that's fine. So I'll remove the second one. Oops. My laptop isn't responding. Okay, there we go. So I'll remove one button as well. Just leave this one for use later. Let's remove the hello world. Okay, cool. Now down here is where I want to put the table. So very easy to create a table. Let's just put table. Let's give it a class name of table, and then say table striped, table hover. All these are classes for Bootstrap. Okay, great. Now if you want it responsive, of course, you can put this inside a div and put a class of table responsive at the top like that. So you put the table inside a div with a class table responsive like that. Okay, good. Okay, so now we have a table. And now what I want is a table row with table headings. So let's see here, table head like this. So here I want the ID and then table head as well, the name of the user. So I just need to duplicate this, and then the age, and then the image. Oops, sorry about that. So the age, the image, and then the date created. So here we just say date, and what else? Age, name, email, I guess. So let me duplicate this, Ctrl+Shift+D, email, like that. Okay, great. I think this is all we need. Let's look at the table once more. The city, email, age. Okay, so city we forgot. We can omit some of these. Let's just put city there, like so. Okay, cool. So with this in mind, we have a table. So let's see how that looks like on our page. And there we go. Okay, cool. So we have that. Let me zoom out. Now, if you don't want it to go all the way out here, you can put some restrictions. Let's put another div to hold everything down. Actually, we can use the same div, table responsive, but let's say column medium, and then let's put maybe 10. So Bootstrap has 12 columns, and if you put 10, you're telling it to just fill in a 10 column section like this. This is annoying, the alert. Why do we have that? Okay, because I'm sending data. Sorry about that. Okay, so with that in mind, we have that, but I want it centered, so I'll put another class here of mx auto, like that. That's margin on the x-axis, auto on left and right, so that will force it to the center. And then in here, I will just put maybe an h4 tag and say users, or maybe we'll call them customers. Doesn't matter. And let's refresh, and there we go. So customers, and these are the customers. We'll remove this later, but this is fine for now. Let me put a class on this one as well. Margin on the y-axis 4, just so we can have some margin up and down. Now let's add some records here so that we can display some records. 4 is a bit much. Let's put 3 or 2. So what I want is now to create a body. So if I do this and t body, that's the table body, and here I can put some rows. Now I want to put a class name here so I can grab this table body by itself. So I'll use JS to know that this is a JavaScript class. I'm using this to grab this item, and I'll say table body. Now you can name this anything you want. It doesn't really matter. Even the JS is not necessary. Just a reminder. So what I want is, once I get the results that I want, and I'm just going to have to add the results here. Okay, great. So let's see that in action. So here, when we get a result, I'm assuming the result is JSON. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll just do console.log like this result. Now what this does is it sends this information we got to the console. Just in case there's an error, I'm going to see it there. You can close this, you can remove this code once you are done with your coding, but once it's good for debugging. So let's leave it there for now. Then I'm just going to say var obj is equal to json.parse result. So what I'm doing is I'm assuming this is JSON, and I want to make it convert that string, because it's a string. The result is always a string. I want to change that string into an actual object so that I can use it better. So I'm assuming this one is an object. So to confirm, I can just say if type of obj is not equal to undefined or is equal to object, like that. So if it's an object, then good. If it's not, then an error occurred or something. So what I'll do is, let me put the console.log here so that it always logs only when we don't receive proper JSON data, like that. Okay, just so we can debug what's going on. But if we receive an actual object, then everything is good. So what I want now is to check what type of data this is. So here I'm just going to say if obj.type. Now instead of just having type, we can use data underscore type, just so it's very specific, because you may have a type column in your database and that might disturb things, but it's okay, I guess. Let's just put it on type like that. Object. No. I think data type is better. It's more descriptive. So data type is equal to read. If it is equal to read, then let's do something here. Then we can put some other else if, some else statements, and put some other data types right there. But for now, let's just concentrate on the read. What happens when we receive a read data? So let's grab this guy and loop through that data to do something. So to grab that guy, we're going to say var, or we can use just let tbody. I'm just going to call it tbody is equal to document.querySelector, and let's put a dot. Don't forget that dot because it's a class name we're targeting, and so that's how we grab that body. And now we do a loop. So what I'm going to do is say for, right? Run a for loop here. So the for loop is going to contain obj.data. That's because we're going to put our results inside the data section. So data type will contain what data type it is, but data will contain the actual rows from the database. Okay, we haven't done that yet, but we will. So here this represents one row of data. Yeah. So what we can do is we can say let row is equal to, and that's the row right there. So it's easy to remember what we're doing. Now I want the final result to actually go into the t-body. So let me generate this result. I'm just going to say let str is equal to empty. So this is just a string. So I just want to save a string here and concatenate to it. So what I'll do is I'll say str is equal to, and put these tilde keys. So this is a, what do you call this? A backtick, that's what it's called. Above the tab key, these are quotes, but they are special quotes. They are backticks. They are better to handle, but you can use any quotes that you want, just a bit more cumbersome. So I want to put a table row like this and close it like that. So inside the table row, I just want to copy this format here where I put an ID. So let me just grab this whole thing from here, right? I just grab this because I want to follow the format that's there, and I'll just paste it here. So come down here, paste. Then I'll replace with actual data. So instead of just this ID here, I'm going to select that and say $sign like this and put row.id. So you see $, open curly brackets, and then put your variable in there. So this is just how we put variables. That's why I'm using the backticks. It only allows you to do this when you're using backticks. Let's go to where the name is. So this one is .name. And as you can guess, this one is .email. And so on and so forth. Okay, let's keep going. And now the image will be special, but let's just put it like that here for now. And city. It's weird having the city over there, right? So let me remove this. It doesn't matter really. Let's just put it there. Okay, cool. There we go. So depending on how many results, this is going to loop through. Now here, it's just saying string is equal to. So we're replacing string every time we go through the loop. But if we do plus equals, then we're adding to the string. Then once we are done here at the end, I'm just going to say tbody.innerHTML. Take note of the capitalization, is equal to whatever is in that string. Okay, so let's test that. Now this won't work because we're not sending any data. So let's try again. I'm just going to say send data and put an empty object and just say read there, like so, just so we can run this. And then the result will go to there. But then here, we need to actually run a query because this is the PHP side. Right now, it will return an empty result, which is not cool. So what we want is to read from the database. So what we need to do, first of all, is to know if something was posted. But the fact that we are here means something was posted. So let's just say if, let's check in the post like this. We'll say if post let's try count post like this. So count is going to count how many items are in this array because the post variable is what contains everything we post. So $_post. And then if we say it's greater than 0. So we are saying if the number of items in the post variable is greater than 0, then let's do something about that. So what we do here is, since something was clearly posted here, we will check for type. So we'll say type, or we'll just say if, like this, You can either use if or you can run a switch statement. It doesn't matter, but let's do the if statement for simplicity. So we'll say if post data underscore type is equal to read. So if data type is read, then let's do some reading here. So let's run a query. So the query is going to be simple. We'll just say select all from users, like that. That's it. Select all from users and then run it. So the result is going to be equal to, we'll run the query function by just saying query and then supplying that query in there like that. Simple and straightforward. And then what we would do now is we want to have the info. I'm going to create another variable called info, or I don't know, you can say result, data, doesn't matter. So say info is equal to an empty array, and then I'll say info data type is equal to whatever the data type is that was sent, like that. So the reason I'm doing this is I'm adding this to the result, or info is all here. I'm adding the data type to the result so that once we receive the result here, we actually have something called data type. We can know what the data type was that was sent and why we're getting this result. And then once we are done at the very end here, I'm just going to say echo, because remember, the result should be an echo always. So say echo info. Now, of course, I cannot echo info because it's an array. I can use print readable, but that won't do me any good either. I want it in form of JSON. So I'm going to say JSON encode, like that, and put info in there. So I'm encoding the data as JSON. So encode is to convert an array to a string, and decode is to get a string and convert it back to an array. So you can do that also in PHP, but we'll be decoding it from JavaScript. This is where we're doing this JSON.parse. Okay, so it's doing the same thing. Here, there is JSON.parse and JSON.stringify. So stringify is what converts an array to a string. Parse is what gets the string back to an array. In here we have JSON encode and JSON decode. So they're just two different ways of doing the same thing from two different languages. So PHP does it like this, JavaScript does like that, the same thing. So we echo that out, that's great. So which means now if we have a result, we can just add it to info, the way we are adding this. So I'm just going to say data instead of data type. So data here is going to be equal to whatever the result is, like that. So just to be neat, I'll do this. I like doing that. So I'm using the tab key here. Okay, so query is that. Then we run the query. They can either be false or an actual result of rows. Either way, we're going to just push that in there and run whatever we're running here. So the fact that it's possible to have false as a result, we should take that in mind here, because we might not be able to run a loop through this. So we will say if we just check type of object dot data is equal to object. So if it's an actual object, then let's loop through it. Okay, so let me push that inside. Too many if statements, but necessary. Otherwise, we'll just run in an empty thing. Okay, okay. So if it's not an object, let's put an else statement here. Why does that keep coming? and say str is equal to no records found. Now, since this is a table, we shouldn't forget, let's make a table row instead. Otherwise, it won't be part of the table. And then let's put table data. And then table data as well here, close tag. And also, I forgot this should not be table header, it should be table data. So Control D to select all th here. Convert them to td instead. Okay, great. So we are back here. Let's refresh and see what happens. So it seems something did happen, but not what we expected. So let's check the console. And the console is saying json.parse unexpected end of line. Whenever you see this JSON parse error, it just means the returned data was not valid JSON, and so it didn't work out. So I guess it doesn't get to the console.log even because this just failed right there. So I guess this code will not do us any good whatsoever. So I'll just cut that, remove that else statement, and put it here, just so I can see what the result was before the error. So it's an empty string, as you can see. So we got an empty string, which is not cool. So why did we get an empty string? Well, the thing is, we didn't include our type, our data type, in this situation. So before we append any of these, or maybe at the end, what we can do is say form.append, and then we'll say data type, that's what we'll call it, and then let's put that type there. Okay. So we forgot to send that data type as well, the read into. So now that we've sent it, it's going to know what to do with it here. So that's great. So if I now refresh, you see, there we go. That's what I have. Now things are not looking too hot. Let's see what the problem is. This is a display issue, and we're having two extras here. I don't know why. So let me select all these double arrows here and just leave one instead. Let's refresh, and there we go. Very nice. So the image is no, there's no city. I guess I forgot to add a city and everything. So this is fine, but we need some actions here. So I'm going to go and up here, after city, duplicate this, Ctrl+Shift+D, and say action. So this is where we will put our edit and delete button. So same thing down here, where we're reading the data. Let's add one more table data and close it, table data. And we want to put, so I can move this to the next line because this may need some special attention, like this. Okay, so table data in there, and I want to put some buttons in there. So say button and close that button. Now, since we're using Bootstrap, we can add a class and put this one as button, and then say button. What color do we want the button? So since it's an edit button, so let's just use primary. That's okay. And then in the button, we're just going to say edit. Okay, cool. Let me duplicate this. We can have a delete version. And then this one will be danger. So it has a red color. So danger is color red, primary is blue, etc., etc. So let's see these guys. Also, I want them smaller, so I'll put button SM as one of the classes. So refresh, and there we go. So we have edit, we have delete, and no cd there, nothing. Now deleting should be simple, but before that, let's add an add new button. So I'm just going to add it as part of the action here. So I'll grab this button right there and go to here where it says action, I just want to put a button there, and I'll just type the word new, like so. Okay, cool. So let's refresh, and there we go. So new, you can put this button anywhere. Customers, you can put it new there. That's up to you. Maybe it's better that way, I guess, but it can be anywhere. So once you click new, we want to see a new item model. Click edit, the edit, click delete, the delete thingy, and that should be it. So let's begin with the new. So we can add some new rows over here. Now clearly this works by doing that. So we're going to use this model as the new item model. So we'll leave it linked to this so we can actually see it, or we can just move things over to that at this point. So let me come to the this button. So what really makes this button tick is the fact that we have this right here, just that. This BS toggle, these two. So grab these two guys, cut them from this button, and we can now remove this button. It's useless now. Boom. So we leave everything from model there. And let's come to where we have the new thingy right here. And let's put it as part of the insides of this button. So that and that should work. So once we move those things, now we've moved all the power to this button right there. So you can see there. So new. Okay, cool. And I want us to leave a bit of space at the top, so I'm going to just duplicate this. I want this to go in the center, so say text center and say spreadsheet. Like that, and put this one on H2 so it's a little bit bigger, but let's put 2 here. Oops, 2, that's margin 2. Okay, so we have spreadsheet, we have customers, and we can click new, and there we go. So let's change this to reflect our wishes. So this is where the model is. So just say add new model, and then let's put this here so we know where it ends. So we'll say and add new model. So within this we can just say add new customer. That's up to you what you want to put there, but then there's save changes and there's close. So we can leave those things there. Let's just click and say add new customer. Good. So now all we need to do is put the right things in there, right? So if we go to our Bootstrap, there's the documentation. There's parts here you can copy from. For example, there's I'm looking for input forms. Yes, input group, for example. So you can copy things from here, no biggie. Like maybe this one, not maybe input group. I'll just say form control. Yeah, so I just want this one here. So this first part here, I'll copy that. You don't have to copy from here, but this is what so I'm doing this. This is where we add our content, okay, for the model. So I'll paste there. Alrighty then. So instead of margin bottom, I'll put margin top, MT3. That's fine. Maybe let's put it at 2 so we don't take too much space. And there's email address, which is fine. But let's duplicate this. Let's put name. So there's name, there's email, and there's what else? Let me separate these guys. Name, age, email address, and then city. City, Okay, so name, age, email address, and city. Let's see if I missed something. Name, email, age, city. Okay, so we need an image as well. Okay, so what we would do here is I'm just going to find a placeholder. Image placeholder on the internet. So let's see. Nice, nice, nice. But I want for a person. So image placeholder for a person. And I don't know. You can choose any of these. Doesn't really matter. Let me grab this one. I like this one. 512 by 512 and it's square and all that. So let me save as. I'm going to go to my images on the desktop, or just go to my folder, the same XAMPP, htdocs, and spreadsheet. And I'll create a folder in here called images. And then I'll say user dot, is it PNG? It is PNG. Okay, great. So we have that. That's cool. So what I'll do is right above here, I'm going to put a div, and in there I will put an image tag. Oops, what have I done? Image tag, right? The source is images/user.jpg. Let's add some styling, and I'll give it a width of 150 pixels, height of 150 pixels, and then to make sure it's square, object fit cover, just in case yours isn't a square image. And then what I'll do is let me add some Bootstrap classes. I'll say mx auto, so it's centered, but for it to work, it has to be display block. All right. Then here on this one, I'll add some class at margin top 2. Goody. So let's see how that looks like. So if I click new, this is how it looks like. But I can't see an image here, so something is wrong. Which means definitely, oh, it's supposed to be .png, sorry, PNG. Let's refresh and let's click that. Okay, so there we go. So now we can put a name, age, email address, and city. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 items. Is this true? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, except the image 5. So that's true. Everything is here. Now what I want is to be able to click on the image and then be taken to where I can browse for an image. So we can do that by I can change this into a label. Okay, so let me change that into a label. Now the reason why I've changed it to a label is because when I click on the label, everything within the label is clicked as well. So or what I could do is just say 4, but let me put it inside the label, so that's fine. I'll put an input of type file, and the name of this will be image, of course. Yeah. So the result of that is this. If I click here, you see that browse thing, but if I click on the browse, I get to browse for an image. But I don't want to see this. I want to be able to just click on the image and still browse. But since it's covered by a label, if I click, it should work as well. Okay, so click, but you see it's no longer in the center. So that's because a label has a display of inline. So let's change that to dblock, like that, to give it the look of a div. And there we go, we're in the center. But we don't need to see this guy at all. So what I'll do is I'm just going to hide this. I'll put a class here on this item and say d_none. So that display none for the input. But we will use it, we just won't see it. So let's refresh and new. Click there, and there we go. So I want a cursor also here to be, so I'll put a style. I don't know about cursors in Bootstrap, so I'll just say cursor pointer. That way it's a cursor, like that. So clickety click, And now if I select an item, you won't see that I've selected anything. So I can put a little JavaScript code here to facilitate that. So it's a very simple code. Yeah. What I'll do is when this, I'll put it on the on change. When the contents of this changes, I'll say on change. I want to grab the parent of this item. The parent is this label. And then within the parent, I'll grab an image tag. Okay, and that image tag is this one, and put whatever item has been sent here as the source there. So to do that is we'll do something like this. We'll say on change, you know, on these event listeners, anything you put here is JavaScript. So we can just type everything in here. Actually, we can. So I just say document, no, not document. I'll just say this, which is the same item, dot parent node. So this dot parent node means this dot the parent, and then in the parent dot, we can just grab the child, the first child, which is the image source here, instead of searching. So we can just say parent node dot children. So the children of the parent node 0, which is the first child, which is this one. So keep in mind that you've set this as something useful. So the image tag should always be first here, so that it's the first child. If you don't want to have to keep it that way, you can use a query selector instead. So in the parent node, you search for an image tag. So you do it this way instead, so that the order doesn't matter. Dot query selector, and then you put img. So whatever image is in there will be grabbed, the first image to be found. So let's do this like that. So this dot parent node dot query selector img dot the source should be equal to. So I want to equal it to the file here. This dot files 0 like that. So this input has a files property. So that's why I'm saying this dot files. It's called files. But it's an array because you can put multiple files. But I just want the very first file there. So you can put 1 if you want the second file. But I want the first file, so I'll put 0. What have I done? What have I done? Oh boy. I think I created a monster here. Okay, there we go. What is going on? Okay, there's a closing bracket missing there. All right, so files 0. Oh my goodness, you know, my numpad isn't on. So instead of 0, I keep clicking the insert key. Okay, so this dot parent node query selector, we grab this image. We're just grabbing this, and then the result is, but you see, this is a blob. So it's not really suitable to send to the source of this, but there's a function that converts a blob into an actual URL. So that function is called URL. It's found in the URL object. So it's URL dot create object URL like this. And close, wrap that inside it. Oops. Okay, so this URL.create object URL helps to convert this blob of data into an actual URL. So what we've done here is just we're telling it to just change the source to whatever was selected here. So refresh, let's try that out. Click and nope, things didn't work. So let's inspect the element and see what problems we created. So URL.create object URL is not a function. So it's telling me that create object URL cannot be found in this URL.something. I think it's just fighting me because I'm doing this from within this. So what I'll do is, let me just create some script tags here. So I'll do a very short script tag here, and then just run a function. Create a function called display underscore image like that. Okay, so what this function will do is it's just going to run exactly what we are doing here, but I think it will work if it's in here inside some actual script tags maybe. This will be the file, so save file, and that will be file here. So we'll send a file in here, the file blob, and then we'll run it. Now we can't use this dot query selector blah 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 unless we send the this here, but I don't want us to do that. So what I want us to do is just give this this image a class name. So I'll say JS image. Now instead of just image I'll call this one the add image. Okay, so let's search for it here. .js add image, like that. Okay, so instead of this dot parent, this one will be document. We're just searching in the entire document. So say document dot query selector js add image dot source is equal to URL create object URL of the file that was sent. So now we need to send this file in here. So we'll say display image. That's the function we want to run. But what we are sending is this dot files 0. So when the contents of this input change, we're going to run this function display image, and then we're going to send in the first file of whatever is in here. So there, and then we'll try that. We'll grab the same image, and then the source will be changed to a URL of the blob. So let's see if that actually works. Yes, clickety-click, boom. Okay, there we go. So I can now change things as needed. Okay, cool. Now the rest of this, let's put some proper placeholders. Name, age. Now age type is not email, it should be number. And then let's put an initial value of 1. Here we change this to text. That's the type. And here we can put a minimum. Let's put a minimum of 1 year and a max of 100 maybe. Email address, email, that's fine. City, let's change the type to text. For validation, we'll just do simple validation, right? If you want more tips on validation, I have other videos. So we'll just say required there so that it validates that. So everything here is actually required. And same thing here, required. And the CD required as well. Cool. But this is not actual validation because somebody can easily just override these since they are in the user's browser, but that's fine. New, there we go. Oh wait, what's going on here? What have I done? Okay, what is going on? Why is there a 1 there? Placeholder, name, value. What's happening? What's happening? Yes, JS T-body. Why is this going on? I do not know. Huh. There's something weird going on here. Let me remove the script tags here, just in case. I can't tell what the issue is. Okay, age is 1, that's fine, name, email. So, what is going on? Anyway, oh, okay, this one here is, I thought that was a problem there. Also, you can change the for here. And this one is for name, this one is for age. the names of these items, but not necessary. But let's just be neat and cd here. Okay, cool. Let me refresh by using the pressing enter there. Okay, so name, age is 1, email, city. Okay, so everything is good. Alrighty then. Now let's give these guys have an ID. This one is ID email, ID age, ID name, ID city. Okay, that's cool. So we can use those IDs to identify what each one of them is. This one should be name. Okay, there we go. All right, so once we click, this should be a form, by the way. Once we click the save button, where is this? Save changes, this should run something. Okay, so this should run something. But the problem is here, once we click save, we need a way to actually close this model. So the close button does something by just putting this BS dismiss model, but the same does not happen for save changes. So let's say we save the changes and we like the save. This will not disappear, right? So if I click here, we have to do it manually. So let's go to the model here and see how to close. If we go down to the model section and look at there are methods here. There's hide, there's show. So I think we need the hide one. So we need to grab the model and hide it. So this is how to do it. So I'm going to grab this here. Let's see if we can have that happen. So when we save here, I'm just going to put an on-click listener on this button. This is a save button. Here I'm just going to say save, or I'll just say add new. That's what I'll call the function. Add new, and then, yep, that's just it. Add new. And so I will come down here, create a function called add new. So of course I'll need it to collect some data and so on, but all I want is to grab this model. Where is the model? The model is named example model, and I don't want that. So let me change every instance of example model and say add dash new dash model, like that. So that's its name now. That's the ID, add new model. Okay, so I want to grab it. Let me come down here. In here, there's code I copied from the Bootstrap section. This is what it is. Okay, it does something else, but the reason I want it is because it has shown me how to grab the model itself. So new bootstrap.model, my model. So instead of my model, it's going to be add new model. Okay, then instead of putting keyboard is equal to false, I don't want any of these. I just want, let's put an empty object here. I just want to put it on one line like so. Okay, so once I grab it, then I can say my model dot hide. Let's see if that works. So back here, spread, click, there we go. So click. So it's not working. So let's see why it's not working. It says this config is undefined. Okay, let me go back here. Maybe I grabbed the wrong thing. Event listener, do something. Document.get element by ID, my model. Let's see. Okay, maybe we can just grab it the way, oh, this creates a new model. So I think this is my bad. Let's just do the direct thing. My model is equal to document. We can use query selector. That's still fine. Let's do this. Let's just grab it directly. So I guess we can just grab it directly without having to worry about these special things. Let's see if this works. Back here, let's refresh. Okay, so my model is null, so it can't find this. Why? Add new model. Is this a thing? Let me find this. Oh, so something wrong with my ID. I guess that's why. All right, maybe this was the wrong type of ID to select, but let me try again. Let's refresh, add new. Okay. This doesn't even work. Oh yeah, that's because I have changed the model. Add new. The model name, sorry. So where's that add new button? It also says add new model, doesn't it? Why? Oh, there's one with A and one with E. Sorry, my bad. Okay, got it now. All right, that seems to have been the problem. So click, there we go, and click. Model.hide is not a function. Okay, how about model.close? Refresh, let's try that. Still not a function. What's going on? Okay, so if you grab the thing, how do you close it? Dispose, there's hide, there's show. Manually hides a model, returns, so before event occurs. But how do you grab this? Yeah, I still maintain I should have done this. Okay, no problem. Let me do this here. Let me remove the, put an empty object. Let me grab that, put it here. Move the my model.close down here. Let me see if that works. Fingers crossed. Add new. Wow, add new is not defined. Let me remove this. It's because I haven't put a semicolon at the end here. So all the code got confused. Close is not a function. Yes, it isn't, but there is hide. Fingers crossed. Ah, okay. Why isn't it working this time? What is going on? My model.hide. Wow, nothing. You know, I think where the problem is this. When I click new, there's a model that's created and stored in memory. And when I click save, I'm trying to close a model, a different model than the one that I created. So I think what we're going to do is, since we want to run everything through JavaScript, I think it would be a good idea. Oops, look at that. I don't know what mistake I've made. It would be a good idea to open this in JavaScript and close it in JavaScript as well. So what I'll do is I'll just leave, let me say, let me call it add model and say .hide like this. Okay. Let me copy this code. I'll cut that code actually. Let me go up here And let me go to the add new button. So I'll move this button down here so I can see it a bit more clearly. So action there and table row. Let's move things into perspective. All right. So this is the part that opens up the model. So let me remove this part altogether. Okay, so now if I click, nothing happens. Now I want to make sure it's the same model that I'm opening and closing. So what I'll do is that code I cut there, I'm going to put it here. So I can create a new model. So instead of calling it my model, I'll just call it add model, like that is equal to, and then that's the add new model without any options. This is for options. Here I won't put any. So I've just created this item so that I can hide and close it whenever I feel like. So if I now refresh, I don't get that, which shows that probably there are some errors. So let's go to the console. So it says reference bootstrap is not defined. Okay, so what's going on here is that the bootstrap code is down here and I'm trying to use it up here. So let me just make sure that it's loaded before I try to use it. So that should work. Now if that works, then on this button I should put an on-click listener, which I'm going to say add model dot show, like that. So that's all I want to do. I want to show the model. And then on the save button, where is the save button on this model? On the add new, I'm going to close it. Well, where is the function? Yeah, right there. I'm going to hide it. So let's see if that actually works. So I'll refresh, new. So it doesn't show the model. So let's go back to the console and see what's happening. Reference add model is not defined. Okay. So why is add model? Yeah, you see this issue of A and, oh boy, I should put A instead of E. That's confusing me. Yep. Let me make sure that's what I'm using. Modal. Okay, instead of model. Click there, and there it is, and save. Now it has closed because it's the same model that we're referencing. So I guess that's why. Okay, very cool. All right. Okay, now we only want you to close when everything is nice and neat here, data is being sent, then we have it closed. So let's save some data here. So all we need to do to save data, here where I say add new, I just want to grab the form of this whole thing. So here in the model body, I'm going to put a form like this. So every item here will be in the form. We don't even need to put a method or anything like that. Let me just select this to see where it ends. It ends right there. Then I will put that closing form tag there. Then push everything inside. Oops, what have I done? Like so. So inside that form. So what I want to do, if I, oh, this button should be part of the form though. Should it? Should it? Okay, doesn't matter. What I'll do is I'll add a class here and say JS add user form. That's what we'll call it, so that we can easily just grab it and grab all the inputs from within here and figure out what to do with them. So I'll grab this input, that input, and so on. If some of these are select keys, we can select them as well. But what I'll do now is here where it says save, actually, wait a minute. This button should, so instead of type button, this should be type submit. Okay, So there we go, type submit so that it can submit as well. So I want this form to end here so that these buttons are part of the form, but I don't know if that's going to destroy the, yeah, that might destroy the flow of these items, but let's try that out. So I'll grab this, oops, my mouse is hectic. I'll put that form out here, the same line as this div, and cut that as well. Put it out here. Okay, so let's try that so that I can see some validation. So if I click, okay, so it's still validating while the thing has been closed, which is not nice. So what I'll do here is I will wait. I'll pause here. In fact, what I'm going to do is instead of on the on-click listener, I'll cut this out. The problem is, like you've seen here, this one is trying to submit. Things are not okay, but we've already gone to our function. So I don't want that to happen. I only want us to go to the function when the form is actually submitting. So I'll paste that here and say on submit. Okay, on the submit. So let's refresh again, click. If I try, now it's telling me put that, fill in that one, fill in that. It doesn't work until I fill in everything. Then it's going to submit and close. So let's try and just fill in some stuff. Okay, and then save. Okay, that has worked. Very good. So on the submit now, we go to the add new section, and then it's going to hide that. But before we hide, let's send some data. So I'm just going to say send data like that, and I'll create an obj, and the type is, data type is save. Okay. Now the obj has to have some data. So I'll just say let obj be equal to an empty object like that. So what I want to do now is let me grab the form. So I'll just say form here. Now, since I've tried to get that form here, I want to grab the same form. So I'll call it form on the other side, but here I'll send this keyword. So this is going to send the form. So all I need to do is grab all the inputs from this form, and that'll be it. So come down here. I can grab all the children, but then I'll grab all the divs and etc. So instead what I'll do is I'll say let inputs be equal to form dot query selector all. I want to select all of these guys, and I want to grab all input types. Now, if there are select and radio buttons, you can just put a comma and say not radio. All the inputs, all the radios will be part of inputs, so that's fine. You can put select and text area like that, so that it grabs all forms of inputs. Okay, then let's loop through these inputs. I'll say for inputs like that. Okay, so the current input here, let's add its key and data to obj. So since this is the object, I will say object dot or object. Since I don't actually know what the key will be, I'll grab this input. So this is the input itself. I'll say input dot ID, because I know that the ID of the input represents the key of that item. You see ID, CT, ID, CT, ID, email. So these are the keys in the database. So that's what I want. So I'm going to grab those. Say object, whatever the ID is equal to object dot value, whatever the value is. So all I'm doing is adding the keys and the values to the object item, and then I can send that object to save. Simple and straightforward. Now, before I send this, I can do a console.log to see what I have, what kind of object I have created and what values it has. So let me refresh. Let's add new. Okay, there we go. And then I will put age 20, email, and then city. Okay, so let's save these changes, but let's go to the console and see what we got. So it doesn't look like we got anything. Nope, we did not. This is from the reading here. So if I clear that, I should see something else. Why am I not seeing anything? City, and then save. Form contains a file input, but is missing method post. Okay, the file will not be sent. That is okay. Okay, so the thing is right here. Now, the problem that's happening here is that I think the page is refreshing, if I'm not mistaken. Is it not? Yes. So what I want to do is, instead of sending the form, let's send the event. So I'll put an E there. I want to prevent an actual posting, right? Because as you can see here in the URL changes. So I want to prevent it from posting. So the method doesn't matter, but I want to prevent the posting. So instead of this, I'll send the event, the entire event, because only the event can do that. So let's come back down here. So the event in this case is represented by E. So I'll just say e.prevent default. So e.prevent default is going to prevent the default behavior of posting. So it won't actually do the posting. We'll do this through AJAX. So we don't need to do that to allow the actual posting. So let me clear this, add new. Let me add some random text. And save. Okay, reference form is not defined. Sorry about that. Forgot I was using form here. So every reference to form is just going to be now e.current target. Current target is the item that was clicked or the one that created the event. In this case, it's the form. So e.current target represents the form in this case. The only reason I removed form and got E is because I wanted to be able to do this. All right, so from that point of view, that's great. Let's refresh, click add new, and save. Okay, so you see now we have an object with all the values that we had here. As you can see, they're right in there. So this presents another problem. If I try to add another record, I'll find these guys are not empty anymore. So I need to empty them as I do this. So I can empty them right about here while I loop. So here I can say inputs I.value is equal to, and then set it to an empty string. Like that. That way I clean everything up for next time. So if I refresh again, inspect the element, console, let me clear the console, click new. So that stuff is still there. If I save, it comes down here, name, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Now if I click again, I should find it's empty, which is nice. Okay, cool. Let's see. All right. Cool. So everything is going well. All I need now is to send the data for saving. Very nice. I'll close this like that. So to save the data is very easy. We're just going to go and run this. Okay, so that add new has happened, and we send with save as the data type. So all we need to do now in the API is duplicate this part, put an else statement here. If it's equal to save, what are we doing? We should save. So instead of the query being that, here we don't even need a result whatsoever. So data is not required. Maybe data is just going to be equal to data was saved, like that. Like this. So let's run the query that we want to run here. So here the insert query goes like insert into users, and then the column names, values, and the values themselves. So column names are name, age. They can be in any order, doesn't matter. So name, age, what else? The image, what else? I also forgot that the image should have an ID as well, because it's an input, otherwise we won't have anything. So image here, let's put an ID for the image, which is image. Okay. So name, age, image, and what else? Email, city. That's it. So we grab these guys and put them exactly the same order here. And let's just select these commas, put a quote after each one, like that, and one at the end, one at the beginning. Oops, I should have been putting the dollar signs. I don't know why I didn't. So I'm putting the dollar signs and converting these values to actual variables. And city. Cool. So this is what I have now. So insert into users, the column names, and the actual values. So let's create these variables. So I'm going to grab this like so, put it here. So city is going to be equal to city from there, from the post variable. But in case the city has an apostrophe or something like that, let's use add slashes, the function, to escape any of those kinds of characters. So I'll grab this. Oopsie daisy. Let me move this here. Put an equal sign, semicolon, like that. Okay. Then I'll grab this. Put it on each one of these guys, like so. And just to be neat, I will do this, tab key, and then change these to reflect what we have. So name, age, and image, and email, and city. Now the thing is, image is special. So image should be equal to just image like that, because we're going to create that variable separately. And here I would just say image is equal to empty for now. Okay, great. Now, image is not going to be inside post, it's going to be inside files. So we can just say check for an image. Okay, so we're going to say if not empty, we use the files, it's inside image, and the name. If that's not empty, then we have an image. So all I want to do is replace the image variable with an actual path. So say image is equal to path instead. So let's create path. Path is going to be equal to, first of all, let's have a folder. Folder is equal to named uploads, right? That's my folder name. I want to check if it exists first. So say if file exists folder. I only care if it does not exist, so I can create it. So I'm just going to say mkdir make directory and folder. Now make sure that you have permission. Let's put 007 to give it permission and a true there for recursive creation. Make sure your server has permission to create folders, otherwise this function will fail. But we're just making sure that the folder exists before we try to do anything else. And then we're going to say path of the image is going to be equal to the folder. And in front of the folder, let's add whatever the file name is. So let's grab that and put it there. Oops, what's going on? Should be just this. Copy, paste. Okay. So whatever the name of the file. Now if you want the file to be unique every time, you can prepend the time function like that. Okay, so this is always unique because it changes every second. But if you want the files not to be unique, to be the file name to be exactly the same file that you sent, then just remove this part. Okay, so path there. Okay, good. And then now to upload a file, just say move uploaded file, and then the file name is the original name. It's saved inside the tmp underscore name, that's the source, and then the destination is the path. Like that. That's how you move the uploaded file. So we are sending it to this folder from this. When you upload a file, PHP moves it to this temp location. And so you're just moving it from this temp location to this part. That's it. And then you've uploaded it. Now, if you want to check whether it's the right file type, you can say allowed is equal to and create whatever allowed MIME types you want, like image, JPG, or image PNG, like that. Okay, so these are allowed PNG. These are the allowed ones. So you can check first before we do anything, before we replace that and then use that. So I'm just going to say if for some reason, if in array, the needle is what we are looking for. So we are looking for what was sent. Instead of its name, we are looking for its type. So if you want to know, how did I know of these? I already know because I use this all the time, but you can check what's inside files here. You can just echo it out and check the result just to see what was sent. And you see that there's type, there's name, there's temp name, and then there's also size, and there's also error. So you can check if there was an error, etc., etc., but we won't be doing that. Now the haystack is where we're looking for. We're looking for the allowed. So what we are just checking for is that the MIME type of the file we've sent, is it part of this array? If it is, then we are good to go. So we'll only do all of this if it is part of it, like so. So you can put a lot of if statements here if you want. You can check for any errors, more ifs, but this should be enough for us right now. Oh, actually, even this should not change unless the MIME type is correct. Alrighty then, so then image will be set to something more interesting. Alrighty then, very cool. So with this in mind, everything should work. Record was saved, blah, blah, blah. Exactly. Then let's come back here. If now we get to this handle result function, right? Where where is this? The read is here. So I want to duplicate this whole part. Or let me just copy this part right there. I'll just put an else statement. put it right there. If type is save, all we're just going to do is send an alert of the result, which is object.data. That's all. In our case, it's going to be just say record saved. Yep, pretty straightforward, if you ask me. Now, in order for us to be able to display an image, anyway, before we even do that, let me just refresh. Let's try and add a record. So I'll click here, and in fact, the image should be required as well. But the problem is we've hidden the this thing here. So maybe let's not hide it at all. Let me remove the d none. Let me put required here. That way we can see it. Let me just put text align center here. Okay. That way it will be in the center when we see it. So click. I just wanted it to be visible so that maybe we can see when I click save, it say please select a file. But let's see if even with the d none, this can actually work. Let's see. If we can't see the input, can it tell us? No, it can't. Okay, so let's remove that. Let's keep it in view. Now, if you want a much nicer looking input here, you can go to form group here. Where is it? Form control, input group actually. There are examples that are better. Where is that input? Oh my goodness, so many things. Like this one right here, choose a file. Custom select, yes. No, this is not the one. This is the one right here, upload. So you can grab this one instead and use it there. It looks much better. But since we've already added our classes and all that, why be lazy? Let me just paste it here. All I need to do is grab the onChange listener here, put it on the input itself, and put the required there as well. Put the name, actually ID. Oh, I had put the ID on the wrong place. Let me put the ID of image here. Yep. Then I can remove this and remove that. Okay. Yep. Wait. Side image. Name image. Change input. Okay. I think it's fine. So back here, let's refresh. Click. Yep. I don't know if this is better, but that's what we've got. So I'll put that there. Good. If I now refresh and try again, the value is still there. The image is still there, I guess. Let me refresh it completely. Click new and save. Yeah, to say select a file. Okay, cool. So let's see if that's gonna work. Save changes. Okay, if I now refresh the page, you see that there's a new record right there, but it didn't refresh the page immediately. So what I want us to do is, the moment we close the whole thing, let's do a read. You see the send data read? Copy that. Then we come down here. The moment after the alert, data saved, then we should refresh the page with this read. As simple as that. Then also coming back to the API.php, when I say read, where is this? Read. I have to order by the ID, so I'll say order by ID descending, so that the last item is first. So I refresh, see ID number 2. There we go. So now we're adding content, but not the image. The image didn't seem to upload at all. Let's see that. So image is empty. Not very good. Now the reason why, because we didn't send it properly. So let me come down here to the add new, right here. So let's just put an if statement here. I'm going to say if the type dot type is equal to file, because the image has a type of file, right? So let me duplicate this. So if the input type as file, we'll do that. If it doesn't, which is an else, let's do this. So instead of getting value, we're just going to get file, the input.files 0, like that. Okay? Because the input for files doesn't have a value property, it has files instead. So we'll grab one of those files there and put it here. Now you can also validate the file if you want, but that will increase the process that we have here. So we won't do that, unfortunately. What you could do though is right here on adding the file, you can reject certain files if you don't like them. So let's refresh. I'll click here and then click. Let's select Edge run again. We'll just call this one ed age 30. The email and let's save. It didn't read, so something weird went on. Let's go to the console. Okay, so this is the error that we got. So that's the goodness of having that console.log. So it says fatal error, argument 1 result must be type MySQLi. Okay. So no real problem happened here. It's just that we were saving and expecting a result. So if I refresh, things should work fine. You see there's an image there. So to solve this problem, we go to the database read here. It's because I'm looping through when there's no result. Okay, so I'm just going to say if is array, like that. No, actually it's not even an array. Wait, what did it say? Yeah, that was not cool. I should have checked. Let me check again. Sorry about this. Let me add a different user, a different image. Shakira 30. Okay, so let's save. Everything's saved. So let's look at the error again. It says MySQL num rows argument 1 result must be of type MySQL result, but a boolean was given instead. Okay, so if it's a boolean, then we shouldn't continue. Okay, so here I'll say let's see, not equal to false. Maybe let's do that. So if the result is not equal to false, or, and then, maybe let's try this. Because when it's false, a boolean instead, things don't work out. So let's try the opposite. So one more time, let's try new. This one is Beats by Dre, age 40, email. And let's save. Wait. Still didn't work. Let's inspect again. Okay. Let me grab this and put it on another if statement. Sorry about that. Yeah, like this. That way it doesn't come to this if it's false. Okay. Let's try this again one more time. This one will just be a babe, age 14. Let's just use the same email address. Let's grab an image, that one, and save. Wait, what? Still? Oh no. Must be of type MySQL boolean given. What's going on? What's going on? How does it even get to this? Okay, let's say is boo is to check if it's a boolean, right? So say if not is boo, then come down here. This time it should work because it's complaining that it's a boolean given when yeah, it actually is. So Mr. Boat 20, same email. Let's try that again. Okay, record was saved. Great. Okay, Mr. Bot is right there. Good. Now we just need the images to be visible. So let's come back down to the index here where we are showing the data. Right here on image, instead of just putting it there, we'll put it on an image tag instead and put the source. The source is the one that's going to be equal to the result there, like so, and then close that. But I want to add a style. So the styles will add exactly the same ones we added to this. So width, object cover, that's it. So come down here and paste. Cool. Let's refresh. And there we go. So maybe a bit too much. Let's put 100 pixels, maybe even 70. And there we go. So at least we have a spreadsheet now. New, we can add, but let's deal with the edit and delete. Then we can call it a day. So let's deal with the delete because it's easier to delete to deal with. So the delete button can have an ID of whatever row this is so that we know what ID to use. So what we'll do is where the ID is, this is the one right there. Oops. I'll copy that. So we're on the delete button right here. So on this one, I will say on click is equal to, then run something. So in here, I'll just say delete row. That's what I'll call it. You can call it anything, and then just put the ID of the row in there that you want to delete. So now let's create the delete row function. So I'll just come here and create a new function and say delete underscore row. And we're expecting an ID in there, so let's put ID there. But first we must let the user confirm. So we'll just say confirm. I don't know if it's confirm with M I always get confused here. But let's try confirm and say, are you sure you want to delete row number? And then we can just put that ID there. We can just say plus ID and then plus the question mark. Let's leave a space there. So if, let's put return there. If we do not confirm, then let's return. But let me just see if this will actually show up when I click delete. Are you sure you want to delete row number 7? Then OK or cancel. Good, it's actually working. So let me put an exclamation point there. Then here now, all we have to do is send data for save. Instead of save, we're going to say delete. And then the object we send should have an ID. So an object is like that. And then we'll say ID and then send that same ID, which is this one here. So ID as the key, ID as the value, which is that one. Simple and straightforward. Then once we finish with that, we should read from there as well. So delete row, and then the result comes back. Let's do this, Ctrl+Shift+D, and then if it's a delete, let's alert the data and then read again. So come back here, and we're just going to go to the, there's the read, there's the save. Okay, so we just need to run a query. So I'll just duplicate this one since it has less code. Then let me put that else like that. So this one is for delete. So if data type is delete, we're just going to say delete from users where ID is equal to, and then we'll put the ID like that and say limit 1. That way we only delete one row. And so we need that ID, so I'll grab it from ID of the post. So we just say ID is equal to that, like so. Cool. Let's add slashes just to avoid any misunderstandings in case it's not really an integer that was sent, and always a good idea to cast it as an integer. Maybe add slashes won't work. Let's just cast it as an integer like that. That's better. And that's ID. Okay, so let's run the query, and data is going to be record deleted. That's it. So let's refresh. Let me try and delete this one, John, the very first one. I'll say delete. Are you sure? Let me, if I cancel, nothing happens. I can refresh, it's still there. If I click delete and then say OK, it should work, but it doesn't seem to. So let's go back to the console. Record delete. Everything seems fine. So what's wrong? Why did it not refresh after? So if I refresh, you see it's gone. So let's polish things up a bit. Deleted. So things work here. It's just that when we receive the data, oh, delete. My bad, sorry. Also, I want to reduce the size of the image still. Instead of 100, let's put, oops, what's going on? I want 70 so that the records are smaller. Okay, good. So I want to delete this one, so delete. Okay, record deleted, and there it is, it's gone. So new works, delete works, just the edit that remains now. So edit similar to new, but with a little extra. So let's fix that. Now we have a small issue of image validation. So let me show you what the issue is. So if I select this and just select some other unwanted file, like okay, so all these are images, but let's say I put this, an MP4 file, we won't see anything here, which is not cool. So it should tell us though. So right here, when we are adding the file, what I want to do first is create a constant, or not a constant, I'll just say a variable called image added, and set it to false. So we will know that an image was added when this one is true. So then I'll come down here to check and say, if type input is equal to file and image added, okay? So if the image was added, or let's start with image added just to be safe and say and. No, this doesn't work very well actually. Better to check from here. We'll reduce the number of looping. Anyway, so if the image was added, then let's add an image. If not, not. And then once we save the data, because we're emptying things here, okay, once we reach this point, we should also say image added is equal to false, because we've sent the current image in case it was there. Okay, that's cool. Then let's go up here again. Once we add this, everything goes well, we'll say image added is equal to true. But we should only do this after we verify that the file is legit, right? We shouldn't even add it there if it isn't. So to find out, I'm just going to say let the extension, the file extension is equal to file.name, right? The name of the file dot split. So let's split the name of the file using the dot like that. Okay, so that dot at the end, dot JPEG, dot something. What I want is, once I split this, this will result into an array. Then I can just say dot pop, like so. So it will give me the very last item, which is the file extension. So here I can show you this by using an alert and say alert, what is X'd there, and then return. So just to show you that it shows the file extension. So I will refresh, click, clickety-click, and let me select this. It should be MP4, as you can see. And if I click an image, that's JPEG. Cool. So let's say let allowed is equal to, and let's put JPG. Some are called JPEG, like that. Some are PNG. Quotes there, yes. So you can put all the ones you want in here. So we're going to say if if allowed dot, is it contains or includes? I can never get this right. So I'm looking at the array and say if it includes the extension dot to lowercase, because sometimes sometimes the extensions are capitalized. So let me move image added is equal to true here. Okay. All right, so if it's there, then everything is good. Let's do that. If it's part of that, if it's not, then we ignore it and just say else alert image format not allowed. If you want to show which ones are allowed, you can just say only the following image types are allowed, and then you put that. Then let's add a plus and say allowed dot toString. So we convert it to a string. And then inside here, we can put what will separate the strings and a comma with a space. That should do it. Alrighty then. Let's test this out. So I'll click new and click here. Let's intentionally load something we don't like. Okay, that didn't do anything. Let's go to the inspector and see what's going on. Dot to lowercase is not a function. Okay, so that, of all things, really. Oh, capital C. Sorry, should always be camel case with JavaScript. So click. Let's try again. Okay, only following image types allowed. Boom. So then if I try to save this, it shouldn't save the image at all. So let's try John again, age 30, email, city, and let's save. So I'm intentionally making sure that this MP4 file does not make it record saved, and it didn't, because if I inspect this to look at the image, the source is empty, so it's working. Very cool. Alrighty then, so with that in mind, that solves the problem. Then let's click edit here. Let's fix the edit. So one more thing we can do to prevent empty images like this is for us to check. So down here when we submit and say add new, since we prevent, before we actually send the data, what we can do is check if an image was added. So we're going to say if not image added, right here. So if not image added, let's return. So we exit the function if an image was not added, and then we put an alert and say an image is required. Okay. So let's try this out. So I'm going to try to add new and not add an image, or maybe let me even add the wrong image. Okay, so let's say I added that, and I added some other stuff. Let's try Mary 85, Mary email, Marydom. Let's try and save that. It says an image is required, so that doesn't work out. Okay, very cool. The only problem is everything was emptied, and that's not cool either. So what we can do is put this question above, put this above this part, right? Maybe even here. So let's validate first. So you can do all your validation right here. In case there's some other validation that you need, maybe you don't want the input to be of a certain type, you can put if statements here, just the same way I've done input.type is equal to file. You can also say if the input.id is equal to this one, so you target very specific inputs and say if this it's like this, check if it's like this, if not then return, which will move us out of this function before we get to this part here. Okay, so let's try this again. I will click add new. Let's add something undesirable. We can ignore that for now. So let's try and save that. It says an image is required. Okay, good. Let's try images, a real image here. It's the same images I always use. Okay, record was saved. And there we go. So at least we learn to prevent images from. Now if I click add new again, you see there's an image there already there, but this will not be acceptable. Please select a file. So there's no file selected, but it shows that. So I have to get rid of this as well. So at the same time, I need to grab this JS add image and empty it. So add image is equal to false. And then right here, let's do a document.query selector, a class, don't forget that dot source is equal to emptiness. Now instead you can set it to images/user.jpg. That way it's the placeholder. Okay, so let's refresh. Let me click new. Let's try Howard. Let me try okay. Let's save that. Okay, record was saved. Now if I click new, you see now it's empty. But this is not cool because, oh, sorry, my bad. It's because it's supposed to be PNG. I don't know why. I always mess that up. Okay, so with that in mind, things are working, at least we know. So what we need to do now is do the edit thing. So here on the edit, I'll just duplicate the function add new. Everything in here will be used. So let's duplicate that. Ctrl+Shift+D. So this one will be edit row. Okay, so prevent default, everything the same. Everything is sent as it is, no problem. But we just need to send something extra, and that is the ID of, yeah, actually we don't even need to do that here. This is just fine. So instead of save, this one will be edit, like that. And instead of the add model, it will be the edit model. Okay. Image added. Okay, I think that solves the problem. Everything else remains the same pretty much. Okay, so now we just need to accommodate for the save and edit. So I'll duplicate the result here. Once the result comes back for the edit, we read again. Same thing here, remains the same. Cool. Now, let me duplicate here for another model. This is the edit model, and I'll change that to edit. Okay, cool. Now add model.show. So right here, I will copy this. So what to do here? So another thing I may need is the edit or row ID. For now, row ID will be 0. Let's say edit row ID. So the ID of the row we are currently editing, so that it's always in there. So this is what I want to copy, so I can show it. Now this will be part of these buttons right here. So on the on-click listener, we will do edit row. No, actually we won't do the edit row. That's for saving. Here we'll just say edit modal.show. But at the same time, while we're showing this, we should actually load the data. So I'll create another function to collect the information of the row that we want to edit. So I'll call this one get edit row. That's all I'll call it. So I'll put a semicolon to show that these are two separate commands. So I'll get the row to be edited and then show the model. Now I may not need to show the model here. I could show the model when the data comes back, right? So that's one thing I can do. Or I can just show the model temporarily, which is fine, so that the user knows the data is being read. So get, now here I need the ID as well. I need to know what ID I am dealing with. So I'll do this. There we go. So let's create this function, get edit row. Then actually we may not need this. I think we don't need this one here. So let me remove that. No biggie. So what I want here is send data. Let me come down here and create that function. All I need to do is send data and give it a type. This type will be get row. That's what I'll call it, get row. And the row we want to get will give an ID. So ID. And here we'll capture this as ID. Okay. Very nice. So we get a specific row there. And then once we are done with this, the result of get row comes down here. Let me duplicate this. So if we just got some row, then we have that in this data thing. We don't need to read again, no problem, no need there. All I want now is to populate the editable row with the data that came in. So I'll just loop through this. I'll say let row is equal to that, like so. So that's the row. And then let me loop through the row. So I'm going to go to, first of all, I'm going to grab the, I'll do query selector. I'll grab the model. Okay. So I'll call this one query selector edit model. So my model is equal to that one. And then I will loop through the row first of all. So go for like this and row like that. Now it's possible I may not find this data I'm looking for. So row, we'll say if row, type of row is equal to object. So if it's really an object, then let's loop through it. If it's not, let's just ignore. I'll do this. Yes. Cool. So so if it's an object, we loop through it and look for every item from in here that has the ID that I'm looking for. So let's say, for example, let's come up here and create the model first. So there's this add new model. We're just going to duplicate it up to where it ends there. Ctrl+Shift+D. This one is the edit. Okay, so that's the edit model. This one goes to edit row, like that. Okay, the result of that. This one is edit customer. Wait, how did that change? Oh, okay. I changed it myself. All right, so everything is good, but we need to populate these things like this. This is edit image instead of add image. So JS add user form. I don't even need that, but let's just replace every instance of add in this model to edit. Okay, so JS edit image, that's good. Now what I want to do is go through all the inputs, and if an ID matches something, grab that ID and then put its value. So, and also at the top here, instead of add new model, this one should be edit new model. Where else do I need to change? Where else do I need? Okay, I think this is cool. Okay, so for now, under result, we just... So as we loop through here, what I want us to do is grab this. So say document.query selector. Not instead of document, we use the model. So inside the model, I'm looking for a specific item with an ID. Now the ID should be equal to the row key, the key of this one. So, oh, is it the key? Wait. Let's put a plus here. So we loop through the row. Yeah, this is the issue now. Within the row, I want row.length. I want the keys of these things, not using I like this. So I guess we have to do it this way. Key in row, like that. Okay. Okay, good. So I'll say let input is equal to that. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing a key. In this case, for example, the keys are name, email, etc., etc., right? So I'm trying to find name and email and all that inside the model that's currently open, the edit model. I'm trying to find those guys with anything with an ID like that. So that's why I'm using the pound sign, which is the ID. and then the key name itself. So if this is valid, so we'll just say if type of input is not equal to undefined, which means it's a valid item. So if it's undefined, then let's set the value. So I'm going to grab input and say input dot value is equal to whatever the key, whatever is involved in there, whatever value is in there, like so. So let's just try it with this and see what happens. So I'll refresh and then I'll click edit on this one. So none of that happened. So let's see if there's any errors. Doesn't seem like there's any errors. So none of that was returned. So I guess the problem is in the API, we didn't actually do any getting of any rows here. So the read is specifically what we can use. So I'll grab this, duplicate it, Ctrl+Shift+D, put an else statement, and use the get row here. Okay. So when we want to get a row, there will be an ID. Grab that, which is similar. Okay, so now we'll say select all from users. Now I can select just specific things that I want, but let's leave it there. So select all from users where ID is equal to ID. Limit 1. And then if result is true, so let me duplicate this and just say result is equal to false. But then if result is true, which means there is something, I'll tell it to get the first result like that. Or instead of doing this, I can just do this. Oh no, that wouldn't work actually. So let me just leave it like that. So if the result has something, then data is equal to the first result. All right, so let's refresh, let's try again. So that didn't work either. So let's inspect, go to the console. Okay, so here the result came back correctly. As you can see, this is Howard. So it is actually working. The only problem is my model is no. So let's check that out in the HTML. This one is empty. So we don't have an edit model, do we? No, we do not. I think it's called edit. It's edit new model, which doesn't make any sense, but that's what we called it, so that's fine. So let me refresh. Let's try again. Let's inspect again. Input is no. Where? Well, it is, but oh, it's actually no. Okay. So it's saying it's no, so let's use no then. Let's try again. We have the same problem again. So let's remove the type of. Just say if input is not equal to no. Let's try that. Okay. Ah, look at that. But the problem is DOM exception. An attempt was made to use an object that is not or no longer usable. Where? Let me click on that and see. Input row key. What's going on here? Okay. Maybe I should put an if statement here as well. Maybe it's the image value thingy. I see. Okay, so the image is special. So I'll just say if key is not equal to image, then let's do this. Maybe those errors would disappear. Yep, that error disappeared. Good. So look at that now. If I click, this one is Mary, edit, you see Mary, all the details are here, and I can save. Let me try and save. If I try to save now, it will tell me please select a file because that's required. But on the edit, it shouldn't be required. So let's go to the edit model and let's remove the required on this input. And even on the function itself, we shouldn't require. That's edit row. Image added is equal to false, that's fine. An image is required. Let's remove this. Image not required. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, cool. So let's refresh. Let me click on Howard. So maybe, oh, we need an ID though. So what I'll do is I'll add a hidden field in the edit section here. I'll just grab this one. An input, type hidden, and then the name will be ID. Okay, just like that. So that, and the ID will be ID. Actually, there's no need for a name. We just need an ID. That way it will be updated as well once we update, and it will be sent. So if I refresh, let me try here. This one, I want to add an image to this guy. So add this, not the Beats by Dre, maybe Alicia Keys. I just want to update that. Let me save. It says undefined. So it says undefined and things did not change. So let's see where the issue is. So I'll click here and let's save. And then undefined. So let's see in the console if there are any errors. None whatsoever. So why did we get undefined? What I want instead is to, oh, wait a minute. Oh yeah, there is no edit here. There's only save, right? Okay, good. So I'll duplicate the save. Ctrl-Shift-D. And put edit there. Because that's the, let me come down here. There's get row, there's edit. So that's the one I want. Okay. Okay, everything looks fine, except the query should be different. So here I need to put an ID instead. So I'll duplicate this and say ID is equal to post ID. But instead of add slashes, I'm going to put int to cast it as an integer. Okay, cool. Everything else remains the same. Now instead of insert, record was edited. Also, I forgot to put the date created here. Why? That's weird. Date updated. So this is how you format your date: hour, minute, seconds, like that. So let me copy this, put here on date created instead. Okay, so let me put it here as well. Duplicate one of these and put date created. That's for the insert. Here for the update query is a bit different. It's update users and then set, and then you set each item one at a time. So let me put this equal sign, comma, like that. Okay, so here we'll put name, age, now image is tricky. We may need to add it or may not, but for now let me just add it. I'll explain why. And then city. Date updated. Date updated. And then you have to give a where clause. Where should this be updated? So we'll say where ID is equal to ID and limit 1. Okay, now the reason why image is tricky is because if there's no image and we try to add image, we're going to replace the existing image because now it will be empty. So we'll have two queries, one that adds an image, one that does not. So all we need to do is add an if statement and say if not empty image. So if the image is not empty, or if empty image, let's do this one. And then if it's not empty, let's do an else and put this one. Alrighty then. So only difference between these two is one has image, the other one does not. Alrighty then. Cool. So let's try this again. Click to edit. Let's click and add an image. And there we go. So the image is there now. So things are editable now. This is John again. Let's edit and just remove the again. Just say John noob. Save. And there we go. It has changed. So we can change any record here now. The city for this guy, let's change that to my city and save, and make sure that the image is not lost. So look there, we have the wrong image showing, so we'll fix that as well. But if I hit save, the image did not change, but my city changed. The only problem is if I click edit, I'm seeing that very same image. So we're not done yet, and I should see this image here. Click edit, look at that. So in order for me to see that image is when I'm setting things up here in the HTML. Where is this? On the handle result, on the get row. Okay. This one shouldn't just be get row, it should be get edit row. Let me change it. Get edit row. And even down here. It's best to select all instances of it, Ctrl D, then change get edit row. Same thing here, Ctrl D, it's just one. Okay, good. So right here, when the key is equal to image, we should do something else. So I'll do this instead. If key is equal to image, if it's not, let's do this. But if it's equal to image, let's use a different item. So grab so input, so which means the input will be null, will it? Yeah. This is interesting now, how to handle this. Okay, let me undo what I did here. Okay. So if key is not equal to image, let's go there. But we can check things out from here. This input won't be, oops. What to do? What I'm trying to do here is, let me go to the edit point. You see this one? It's the JS edit image. That's what I want to grab. But this one has an ID of image. So I want to leave this there without putting another ID here to mess things up. So let me grab this. So what I'll do is down here, right about there, I'll just put an if statement. Let's say if key is equal to image, then let's grab this document.query selector dot that dot source is equal to row key, like that. Okay, cool. Let's refresh and let's try that. Okay, worked. Very nice. Alrighty then. So everything works as intended. Now, in case you want to view the document, the same way we're clicking edit and you want to view the details of this document, we can just grab this edit thingy and expand it, I guess. So what we can do is, let's put another button here called view. So here I will duplicate this. This is on the handle result. Ctrl+Shift+D. And this one is get view row. So all these edit have changed to view. Okay, everything else remains the same. Even though we're calling them inputs, they won't be inputs really. And then instead of value here, we're going to have inner HTML because there will be divs instead. Okay, for viewing, we're not going to try and edit what's in here. What's on the model, sorry. So I'm going to go to the model again and duplicate the model once more. So the edit model is the one I want this time. So Ctrl+Shift+D, duplicate it, and edit will be replaced with view. So this is the view model. And then the view model here, all I need to do is say, let me remove the label. change this to a div. All these change to divs. I don't need this hidden input anymore because we're not saving anywhere. I don't need the save changes either. I don't need this to be a form. Okay. And what else? I don't need this display image. So the whole input here is irrelevant, which means the whole script here is irrelevant as well. Even this upload thingy out. Okay, cool. What else? What was I editing? This input, right? Type text, not in. We'll leave the classes there. I'll remove the type. I'll remove the placeholder. I'll remove the required. Okay, so just the ID, enough. So, yep. So here as well. Oh, by the way, this is a div, so it needs a closing thing. So I'll say, maybe I need the label. I'll leave the labels to make things easier. And just say name like that. Okay, so this as well I'll leave, but I'll remove all of these. ID will remain, placeholder will go, plus that. Same thing here. I'll remove the type, I'll leave the ID, remove this suggestion, remove that type, placeholder and required out. City. Okay, cool. Yep, and view customer. Good, good, good. Now I need the view. Let's edit new model. Okay. So let me go down here to where I created this. I'll duplicate. This is the edit. This is now the view model. And we change every instance of edit to view. New is not required, but it's easier to just leave things as they are. Okay, so there's this get row. We're just going to duplicate it because it works similar. Instead of get edit row, we're going to get view row. Just like that. Okay. And then let's go now to where we create these guys, these buttons. I'll duplicate the edit button and put the view instead. And get view row there, like so. And then change this to the view model that we'll show, and that's it. Oh, by the way, if I go to this side, there's get edit row. I'll duplicate this as well and change that to view. All right, that does it. So let's refresh now. Everything is gone. Why? Let's look for the console. This.config, what's happening? Okay, so something very wrong has happened. Let me. Oh, there was an extra bracket there. Let's see if that's what was causing the problem. No. Let's go back here. What have we done wrong? So what you can do is you can go and undo slowly, line by line, to see which part. The problem is I've edited so much, it's insane. Let me undo that. Let's see. Okay, so things are not working as intended. Now, here the problem is the error is inside the Bootstrap file. So I don't want to start running around there to check what's going on. So probably, maybe here, let me delete some of these things like this one, which were previously not there. Okay. At least we have a result now. So since things changed, it means there is a change. So const view model bootstrap view new model. So what's wrong here? Let me try and find edit model. This model right here may be a problem. So maybe when deleting things, I ended up deleting the wrong div. Like here, this div doesn't seem to have a proper. Oh, these guys have no closing divs. This is why. So let me do that. Sorry about that. I forgot about that completely. Let's refresh. Oh, something at least. We are viewing something. So let me see now. If I click on this, does it correspond to that? Okay, it does. And this to that. Okay, so at least one problem solved. But if I remove this, do I get everything I wanted? And yes, I do. Okay, so it seems the problem is right here. This view model doesn't seem to want to comply. Is it the name I've used? Let me put a 2 there, just to make sure it's not the name. No, it isn't. Okay, so it's not initializing somehow. Edit new model. But I want the view mode. Oh, I didn't change it. So there are 2 of them. I guess that's the problem. So let me change this to view. Yep, sorry about that. And there we go. Okay. So there are 2 similar models. That's the problem. Also, on the image side, let me scroll down. Right here where we get the result for view row. Oh, I changed it. Okay, cool. So everything is fine now. So with that in mind, if I click view, look at that. These are not editable. We can close. Very cool. Only thing is now I can remove the console.log from the get result function. Just mute it. You can unmute it when you want to see errors in future in case of any problem. And then in the view model here, the image, I want the width to be 100%. Let's remove the height thingy. Okay, much better. So there we go. We can view that record, view that record, and even add a new record. So let's add a new record. This one is Acon. But why can't I see that image? Any errors? Let's see here. Console. No errors at all. So what's going on? Oh boy. That isn't good at all. So I think it's showing on a different place. So let me come back and make sure. This is JS edit image, right? That's what I'm referencing here. That's cool. Let's go to the add new. What am I referencing here? Add image, right? Okay. Is it still JS add image? Yes. Okay. So what's going on? Ah, there's another script tag here. So wait, okay, it should be there. There's none on the view one. So what's going on? Oh, you see the problem is I have display image here on this as this function, and also display image here as well. So the problem is what happens with JavaScript, if you have 2 similar functions, it will ignore this first one and just use the last one. So it's targeting the edit side. So what I would say is just change the name. So display edit image like that also here, so that this one is different from the other one. This should solve the problem. So refresh, let's add new. Let's see, there we go. Ami Faku, age 24, ami@email.com, and city Lagos. All right, so let's save that. Record was saved. Where is it? There it is. Let's view it. There we go. If we don't like something, we want to add a surname, let's edit like that and save. Okay, add it. Let's change the age to maybe 34. Oh, that's a view. Let's click edit. Okay, and save. There we go. All right, so as you can see, everything is working as intended. If, for example, you want the image itself to be the click instead of view here like this, you can still do that by copying what's on the, let's go down here. This is the on click that gets you the view thingy. So if you grab that and just put it on the image, where is the image tag? This is the image tag. If we put it there as well, it'll still do the same thing. Then maybe you can add a style. Since there's a style here, you can also say cursor pointer, so that people can know that the image is pointable, is clickable. If I click, look at that. Okay, click, there we go. Very nice. So hopefully you have learned something here, and I will see you in another video.